Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Velero community meeting and open discussion. Today is Tuesday, April 13th, 2021, and welcome, everyone. I'm going to start with some status updates, and then we're going to dig into a really big announcement here. First off, we have Carlicia.
I was on PTO most of last week, so not much to report, but I did do AWS tests for the RC2, which is becoming, just looking good. So that's it. That's it for me.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for Carlicia? All right, Bridget.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so like Carly mentioned, we were doing testing last week, and as of this morning, we have officially released the 1.6 release, which is great. So please check it out. Please try it out, and give us your feedback. Yeah, it's very exciting. Very happy to finally get it out so that everyone can finally make use of it. So yeah, we're all very excited to see it land.
So what's in the 1.6 release?
Okay, wow. So we have a few different highlights. So I think probably one of the biggest features, one of the things that people have been asking for, is support for multiple credentials for backup storage locations. So what this new feature enables you to do is if you have if you want to configure multiple backup storage locations with different providers, you can now, through the Velero CLI, assign different Kubernetes secrets to those backup storage locations to like more seamlessly back up to different providers, and also have multiple backup storage locations with the same providers. So if they need different credentials, this is something that wasn't possible in Velero before, but is now available. So we also have loads of like great features and improvements from the community as well. So Pranav had added progress reporting for restores. Frankie, who is on the call with us today, she had added restoring the API groups or Kubernetes API groups by priority level. So this is building on a feature that Raphael had added back in 1.4. We also have an upgrade for Restic. So we're now including the latest version of Restic, and also during this release cycle as well, we added end-to-end testing for Velero. So just trying to continue with keeping the reliability and stability of the project going forward. And I think that's going to help with our release processes in the future, really help us get those releases out the door quicker as we add like more features. And yeah, then there was also a variety of CLI usability improvements as well. So there's loads of other stuff. Please check out the release notes and see if there was anything in particular that you were looking for that has now been released.
I wanted to highlight that the end-to-end tests were a lot of work that mostly I think Dave and Ashish tackled. And it's great, and it's going to be great for our process because we basically automated a bunch of things that we had to do by hand. We still have to do some things by hand. And it's great that there is a script that you can run and add a workload with a bunch of data to any of the providers that we support, including vSphere. And I used it to do some manual tests, and it's part of the E2E test to add this data. And it was fantastic. It was just so great having that there. It was stable. We always, every time I ran, it worked. And we are going to have a system where the E2E tests will be run on before merging PRs. So that's going to be really help us keep the code base stable and working as intended.
Yeah, definitely. It's been such a huge improvement to our workflow. So yeah, thank you, Dave and Ashish.
Awesome stuff. Does anyone else have anything to add for the 1.6 release here? And then we have a blog post going out shortly. So we'll do a proper Twitter announcement and all of that when the blog post lands. This is fantastic stuff. Awesome job, team. All right. Speaking of testing, Dave, you've been doing some testing in release physics.
Well, yeah, it's just the getting the release out. So we did that, and that is pretty good. So that means that we're also we can start merging PRs again. So anything that gets approved, we can roll it in. We'll try to keep this window smaller for the next release for 1.7, but we're going to keep on this this simple code freeze model for a while until it becomes, until it gets to the point where we really need to branch things at release time, just to avoid the amount of cross-porting and thinking that has to go in. Ideally, when we go into the next RC phase, the PR backlog will be very small. And the intent is that as we go into RC, we should have a lot of confidence that everything will just pass the tests. So we should have the majority of our tests already have run automatically and all the code stable, and we should just be able to run right through everything. So that is one of the goals for 1.7. And I think we'll do that. So that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome. Any questions, comments for Dave? All right, Ashish.
For me, it was mostly RC2 testing on like GCP, Restic, and all that stuff. So nothing else going on. Going forward, going to pick up some stuff from the 1.7 roadmap, especially the CSI stuff. So I may have some stuff to report next week, I guess.
Sounds good. Does anyone have anything else they want to add today? Do we have any discussion topics for today? Any questions from the community members?
I have questions. It's now a good time.
Now is the perfect time.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I thought I had an issue already up there, but I was going to share this, just if I can just type this up and put it in. But essentially what's happening is I wanted to take some time to ask these questions of Velero maintainers. We're using Velero in our environment, and what we're seeing is we're passing in the CA set to the Velero CLI. We're able to take backups successfully against the cloud service provider, but whenever we do a restore, we get this issue. I'm going to throw that in the chat, and I'm putting up I'm creating a Velero issue right now. Should be up in like a minute or two, so I apologize about this. I'm just going to throw this in the chat. Okay. And that's the issue we're seeing right now whenever we do restores. So the question I had was, when we do pass in CA certs to the Velero CLI, what's the life cycle of that cert? Are we passing that into a specific directory in the host? Based on what I saw that it was creating like a temp directory for the cert, but I just wanted to learn more about that process and see if this is something that is being tracked.
So Velero does not manage the life cycle of the cert. It basically is, that's just a way that we've set up Velero to use certificates that our users have set up. And going by this error, looks like the CS this cert verification is not completing because Velero is not able to verify the cert presented to it by the storage or whatever API that you're calling.
Tunde, can I chime in?
Yep. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Garanos, and I work with Tunde on some projects. So what we were noticing is that when we pass in the certificate with the CA cert, it seems like it gets added to the backup storage location, but it doesn't appear that the certificate is used anywhere else. So in environments where you have proxies that sit in front of endpoints, it seems like that certificate should potentially be provided to the Velero pods themselves, because the pods seemingly are able to make backups and push to S3, since the backup storage location has the CA cert. But any other action, because Velero, like you said, isn't able to verify those certs that it's encountering in the proxy that sits before it, it errors out. So I guess from when I was reading the documentation, I mistakenly assumed maybe that passing the CA certs with that flag would not only put it on the backup storage location, but would also inject it into the Velero containers.
So can you describe what this environment is? What cloud provider you're using?
Sure.
You mentioned a proxy.
Yeah,
What are you
so
doing?
it's
hard to figure it out.
Sure, it's an AWS environment. It's an isolated AWS region that has custom certificates that lie in front of the endpoints.
And to clarify to your other point of you are giving CA certs to the backup storage location. So you're not giving the certificate to the backup storage location, but you're associating the backup storage location with a certain CA cert. And Velero uses that to when it is trying to interact with that particular backup storage location, it uses that CA cert to establish that secure connection with the backup storage location to put and retrieve backup. It's interesting that you say that Velero is able to store the backups, but you are still getting this error.
Yeah, it's possible that it was telling us it was successfully storing the backups, but since we had no way to actually test the restore, right, because we were getting errors on PV actions to actually create the persistent volumes within AWS, it's possible that the backups weren't even created correctly, right? And Velero was reporting back that they were. I mean, we did see files in S3 in the buckets that we specified, but obviously we weren't able to restore to actually test the validity of those backups.
So
okay,
let's look at what's going on here. So what you're saying, so on the restore path, so are you using RESTIC or EBS snapshots?
EBS snapshots.
Okay, so on that path, actually on both paths, we're going, well actually, yeah, on that path, the AWS plugin is going to need to be able to communicate with the AWS control plane and say things like create a volume. So I get the feeling here that you've got the AWS control plane is completely proxied here. Is that true?
To an extent, yeah. I mean, we're working with machines that have IAM roles, right, that have the proper permissions, but I think since some of the actions are actually hitting those endpoints and making calls to those endpoints, that's where we run into the certificate issues.
Yeah, actually, I'm surprised it took snapshots.
Yeah, I mean, I was as well. And like I said, that's why I couldn't test the validity of the snapshots that were taken. I can tell you that my workaround was to take the same cert bundle that I passed via the flag to create a config map and to mount it to the Velero pod at, what is it, at CSSL, right? The cert path, right? And then I set the AWS_CA_bundle environment variable to that path that I, where I put the certs in the container.
And did that work?
That did work.
Okay. So, and you say you were able to take backup successfully, but it's in the restore path that you're seeing this error.
Until I did the workaround, yes.
Okay. Interesting.
And when I say successful, right, I mean the Velero CLI reported them as, backup successful, right, or backup completed.
I have a feeling that I need to look into it, but I'm pretty sure that the AWS plugin that we use only applies the CA cert for object storage. It doesn't use it for the volume snapshot or path. So it doesn't, I'm not surprised to hear that it didn't work for the volume snapshotting aspect of it.
Yeah, and so that's not even, it's not a backup storage location that the snapshots are going to. That's the volume snapshot location. So I think what would make sense here is maybe as part of the install, even being able to install alternate certificates into all of the containers would probably get around this kind of problem.
Yeah.
For the moment, it sounds like you have a workaround. I think that's a good workaround.
Yeah.
And so if you'll put in, we can track this issue. We had some other similar things coming from people where they wanted to be able to change the regions. So we were asking this in community meeting a while back. It's like, because this concept of putting a proxy in front of the cloud provider, we weren't really thinking about going in that direction. So, is this like best practices? Where is this coming from?
It's the nature of this particular AWS environment they're in. It's AWS region US ISO East 1. So it's an isolated AWS environment. But yeah,
Okay.
so I guess I like how you guys do the installation flag for CA certs. Maybe it can, like you said, be either extended or just add another one that supports it, adding to the containers as well. That would definitely work for us.
Yeah, so we'll have to look into some of this stuff in like fully proxied environments.
But in the meantime, would the workaround, would this be like a good workaround to just write whenever the CSS is written, we write that into the same file path that we're currently using with the config map?
I mean, what you're doing seems to work, and I think that's good. So yes.
So would this be something I can work with someone on Velero team to make a PR? I don't know who that would be like a great person to start with, but
I can help you.
okay, thanks,
You
Ashish.
can ping me offline, and we can chat about it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I don't want to just slam fixes in. So let's make sure we understand what we're doing and how
Yeah,
it's going to affect
absolutely.
the various cloud providers. So I think you have a workaround right now that works for you, and I'd ask you to use that and have a little patience as we work through the process.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Hey, Garan, is that everything?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing me in today. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Would somebody be willing to, I know there is a discussion, but to open a ticket and write down the workaround, and as we evolve with what the solution is going to be, we just update the ticket and before.
Tunde, if you give me whatever ticket you make, I can write up the workaround that I did.
Yep, we'll do that.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
please add logs and things like that, and a description of the environment.
Sure. Thank
So
you.
right now in the ticket, the environment says Velero 154, Kubernetes 118.
Yeah, so due to the nature of the environment, there's limited information we can share. So login might be near to impossible to share.
Okay, but even things like I'm running in an AWS isolated environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So we're doing this here, and I'm able to talk back and forth with you quickly. But in general, this is going to be a multi-day extracting information process.
Sure.
So I'd encourage everybody to give as much info up front in the ticket as you can.
I think since Tunde just opened the ticket, I can definitely go in and supply some additional information, even things that I mentioned here.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much, guys.
And you can
Thank
go
you.
ahead and open a ticket instead of a discussion, because it's definitely something that we're going, it sounds like we're going to work on.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
So I've added the issue to the notes as well. So if anyone wants to follow along later on, they can do that.
Yeah, when the issue, so that's a discussion. When the issue
Yes,
gets
that's
open, we'll just link everything.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
people can track on that. We'll update it.
Sounds good. Does anyone else have any other discussion topics that they want to bring up today? All right. We do have a ton of contributor shoutouts in the release notes. We're not going to go through all of them on the call today, but yeah, huge shout out to everyone who's been helping out with this release. Thank you, everyone from the community, and thank you to the maintainer team here. You're awesome. So with
Jonas,
that,
you are awesome.
you're awesome. So with that, Thank you all for joining. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Try out the new release and talk to you soon. Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.